Andy, my dude, have you heard of the magical website builder known as Squarespace?
Ugh, not another Squarespace ad. I feel like every podcast is sponsored by them.
Hey, don't knock it till you try it. Yes, okay, it is overhyped, but actually it lives up to the hype. Squarespace is like a website fairy godmother. With a click of a button, your site transforms into a beautiful masterpiece.
A website fairy godmother? That sounds interesting. What makes it so magical?
Well, for starters, those slick templates make anyone look like a professional web designer. Pick one, customize the colors and fonts to match your brand, and voila. Plus, the drag and drop fluid engine is so easy, your grandma could build a site on Squarespace.
Well, she did knit me a lovely scarf last Christmas. Maybe website design is next.
Exactly. And when you're ready to sell your Nana's handmade scarves online, Squarespace has built-in e-commerce. Add a store with one click. Get flexible payment options. Then watch those sales roll in. And when she wants to teach others her steezy scarf skills, Squarespace's new courses feature is just the ticket. Nana can set up her curriculum and enrollments and payments in a snap and become the next e-knitting influencer.
Oh, wow, you really sold me with the grandma angle. Sign me up for that free trial.
Just go to thenextreel.com/Squarespace and transform your site into a beautiful Squarespace masterpiece.
Well, thanks, Pete. Even though it's overhyped, Squarespace actually sounds perfect for Nana's site's needs. Appreciate the warning on the ads, though. I'll brace myself next time I listen to a podcast.
Anytime. Let me know if you need any help getting that site up and running. Andy, can you believe we've almost hit 700 episodes of The Next Reel?
I know, it's crazy. And with all the other episodes in our family of podcasts, we are well over 1,200 episodes of movie conversation. It's really pretty amazing that we've gotten to have these in-depth movie chats every week for over a decade now.
And we couldn't have done it without our loyal community of film fans. Their support over the years has meant so much.
For sure. That reminds me, we should give the merch store a shout out. Buying shirts from thenextreel.com/merch is a great way listeners can continue to support the show. Plus, they get to sport our great designs.
Absolutely. I think sometimes folks forget we have a variety of shirts, mugs, phone cases, and more available. In fact, a great place to start is with a shirt sporting the Next Reel's logo.
We also have that classic Fast Times Spicoli Surf School tee, or the weirdly popular Rusty's European Tour shirt.
The one from National Lampoon's European Vacation. Why is that so popular?
Search me, but we have sold a ridiculous number of those. I guess there are a lot of Rustys taking trips to Europe?
We're always adding new designs based on movies we've covered, like our brand new design for a streetcar named Desire, featuring a streetcar named Desire. So if you want to rep your love of TNR and films, head to thenextreel.com/merch.
Every purchase helps us continue to have these weekly in-depth conversations. So visit thenextreel.com/merch today.
And as always, thanks for listening and being a part of the Next Reel community. We've got lots more great movie chats coming your way. I'm Pete Wright.
And I'm Andy Nelson.
Welcome to The Next Reel. When the movie ends,
our conversation begins.
In just a matter of seconds, you're going to hear a classic episode of this show from back in the day when we called ourselves Movies We Like.
It took us a while to settle into the show's format, so you'll notice some differences as you listen to these episodes. For instance, it takes us a bit of time to actually get into the conversation about the movie. Things like that.
But we're still proud of the conversations about the movies themselves, and we think they're worth keeping in the library.
So enjoy these episodes from our back catalog. And you can become part of our Discord community, learn more about the show, and find out how you can become a supporting member at thenextreel.com.
So thank you, everybody, for downloading and listening to The Next Reel. We appreciate your time and attention, and we hope you enjoy the show. You know what I got? Can I tell you something? I got something that's totally unrelated to movies that has made my life better.
Wow.
Mm-hmm. Do you want to hear about it?
Yes. How could I not?
I got a new refrigerator.
That's the last thing I was expecting, but great.
Son, let me tell you what is up. Ice and water and crushed ice in the door. I've never had that in my life.
Wow.
Uh-huh. Things just got better around here. If anybody wants ice in their water when they're at my house, I can now handle that.
But here's the problem, Pete.
What?
Not that I want to poop on your lemonade.
Oh, too late. You've already put it out there.
But you're not going to get your bubbly water out of the fridge. You're going to still have to make it.
I do, but I put the bottle of the prep bottle in the door thing, and it filled, and then I do the soda streaming. And I did that tonight to prepare for this very show. I'm drinking the bubbly water.
Oh, there you go.
Yeah, so my process is changed, but it still works, and it takes advantage of the new fridge. And you know what? Here's a problem. Let me just say this about that. Refrigerators and refrigerator manufacturers, anybody who's listening to this show who is involved in particularly the design of refrigerators, I have an open question. Why on earth does every refrigerator have to be giant now? Why does it have to not fit in the holes that thousands upon thousands of homes in the suburbs have in their existing kitchens? Is there an assumption around the design table that every home gets a new refrigerator, has to be renovated? Is that the assumption? I ask you. Wow. I'm a little bit fired up. I had to rip baseboard off of my around the hole. I mean, it fits like they literally had to jam it into the space. I'm pretty fired up about this. And it sticks out like some 4 or 5 inches. It pretty much dominates my kitchen. Yeah, like you walk in and you feel like you sort of need to maybe take a knee.
Do you have like a holy light above it kind of shining down upon it?
I do. I actually, if you position because the light inside, it's got this fancy light. When you open it up, it like fades in. And so I have taken to positioning key food items or bottles, beverage items under this light in such a way that when you open it, the light fades in above it. And it is in fact a dramatic isolation in my refrigerator. Funny. It's really fantastic. You want a root beer? It's a holy root beer. Yeah.
The holy root beer.
That's my story of the week. What did you do? Did you do anything good? All right, well, I could take a break for a chance.
Yeah.
I always break for a chance.
That was all I had. I didn't have more. My Gregorianness is fading.
What did you do this week? Did you do anything good this week? Anything at all?
Oh, what did I do this week? I don't think I did anything good this week. You know what I started this week? It's kind of fun. I started with my children because, I'm doing this Tom Cruise thing, which I'm really pushing to finish before Oblivion opens up. Or not Oblivion. That was his last one.
Yeah, this is the new one where he goes back and forth in time. And
exactly. Yeah. I'm doing that little Tom Cruise marathon, trying to plow through all of his movies, and I'm moving along pretty well. I'm finally up to The Last Samurai, so slowly but surely.
I'm sorry about that.
Hey, well, I had to muddle my way through Mission Impossible 2 again, and Vanilla Sky was like a painful pairing for me. But I'm getting to a point where I feel like there's going to be some better movies coming, hopefully. But Edge of Tomorrow, that's the one that I'm trying to get everything done before Edge of Tomorrow hits. But I actually started a marathon with my children because, I can't do Tom Cruise with my children. There's way too many movies that are just not appropriate for a 3 and 7-year-old. So we actually started a marathon of all the Walt Disney Studios animated films. So we started with Snow White and the Seven Dwarfs, and then we did Pinocchio.
And when they're 17, you'll finish.
Hopefully it won't take quite that long.
This gets into Andy.
We're just doing the animated film, so there's only 53, and we did 2 in a weekend. So,
doesn't this take you back into your fetishist love of like Tinkerbell movies?
No, those are not official Disney Animation Studio films. There are only 53 so far. The 54th one is going to be the Big Hero, whatever it's called, Big Hero 6, coming out this fall. So our goal will be to get through all of them before that one opens.
That's awesome. Ambitious.
Sure. They're kids. They can sit around all day watching movies.
That's great. Good for you.
So it was a fun weekend, and I'm posting it all in Letterboxd. I'm doing my lists,
Excellent,
so people
excellent.
can follow along and see what we think of them. I'm doing my little reviews of the kids. What did you like? What didn't you like? What scared you? Trying to get a sense of what they think of the movies. It's fun.
That's great. That's great.
Yes.
You're a good dad. Related to that, hey, Game of Thrones is back on.
Yes.
Yeah, no, I didn't watch that with my kids.
That's a little
But
bloody.
let me tell you, episode 2, Game of Thrones, there's a thing that happens in there in a way that I've never seen it happen before to a human. And it made me stand up. Like, I'm watching it, and then the show ends, and I realized I was sitting when I started, and now I'm standing up, holding onto my head. That was what it was like. I was sitting, and then I was standing, and I didn't recall the transition from sitting to standing to holding. It was tough to watch. It's a great season so far, and I love the tagline of the ads that are going around the net right now. The taglines are for you to go buy the first 3 seasons, and the tag is "Hurry before the internet spoils it."
Right, I saw that today. That's pretty funny.
All right, let's tell the people where we're from, Andrew.
Yes, let's.
You think about that for a minute.
Okay. All right. Okay.
Hey, everybody, this is The Next Reel. I'm Pete Wright. That there is Andy Nelson.
Hello.
And we spoil movies every single week. You want to see the other movies we've spoiled heavily? Head over to thenextreel.com. You can see all the shows we've done. You can see our special edition monthly new release series, The Film Board. We got another one of those coming up in just a few days. And you can read the fantastic blog stylings of the great, the once and future king, Steve Sarmento. Now, he's been doing some good stuff.
I like it.
Do you want to know what my favorite thing that he's doing right now is?
Please tell me.
You got to head over to the blog because he started this series, which you and I, frankly, should feel great shame that we have not been better about this. So Steve is batting cleanup for us. He's got a new series called Trailer Rewind, where he is going back and reviewing a selection of the films that Andy and I have chosen as our trailer picks from past shows. And he started, what was the first one he did was The Bay. And that was from episode 54. We talked about Bullet, and The Bay came up. And then he ended up just this week, just went live with John Dies at the end, which he says is, well, you got to read it. But let me just say, it's made it to the Steve Sarmento's Guilty Pleasure list. And that, my friends, speaks volumes.
You've seen it twice already.
I know. I know. And sadly, I haven't seen it once, so I'll tell you it's on my watch list high. And so this is, I've seen a good handful of the films that we've talked about in our trailer picks, but not enough, and that makes me sad.
I hear you.
So
there are some on my list that I keep feeling guilty about, like Small Apartments. I still feel I need to watch that one soon because it just looks like such a quirky one. And Rubber, I think one of us talked about, and there's a lot of ones out there that I feel like we need to jump in and watch. So I'm glad that he's doing this. Totally.
And he did a great feature on the writer that Gen X forgot when Lorenzo Semple Jr. died just a few weeks back, and it's a great series that he picked up on. So definitely, the blog is fantastic. You got to head over to the blog and read what Steve is putting out there. And now, Andy, I don't even know how to introduce this anymore, but I'm gonna. It used to be Andy versus the people, but it has grown. I think outside of your control.
Yeah, it's kind of Andy and Steven against the people. But it's really Steven
so good.
versus the people. And this was a really tough week for people. This was a fantastic looking movie that I had never even heard of. Steven picked some just amazing images from this film called Spies by Fritz Lang, a silent German expressionist film from 1928. And the images are really just stunning all the way through, especially day Five's image of the bad guy as he's like getting out of his crashed car and he's got guns in both hands and he's just kind of blazing away.
Oh, that's so good.
And to see an image like that from a movie from 1928, I mean, it really kind of, speaks volumes as to how good filmmakers were back then, and how much filmmakers these days are stealing from filmmakers back then without probably even realizing it. I mean, it's just a great image. And it's definitely a film that I have now added to right to the top of my Netflix queue, because I feel like I definitely need to see this one soon. But yeah, it fooled everybody. Nobody could figure out what it was. Even trying to pull out Google image searches, I don't think anyone managed to figure it out. So this chalk this one up for Steven. He beat the people.
He beat the people. We need a scoreboard. That, my friend, that's what we need on this segment. We need a scoreboard, and so I'm going to figure out how to make that happen. This is such a great series, and I think old Steam Robot, he is bringing a lot of good mojo to these contests. So look forward to more great films.
Yes. And if anybody from who's listening goes and watches Spies, we'd love to hear what you think.
Absolutely. Please let us know. What else do we have to talk to people about? Anything else?
I think that's it.
All right. Let's do trailers. Andy, I think I'm going to go first.
Okay.
No. I've changed my mind. You should go first.
Okay, well, I'll go first. Mine, again, as everybody knows, since we're in our found footage series right now, I've been doing found footage trailers. And like I said last week, it's a little tricky finding good ones. Although this one this week looks like it has kind of an interesting premise, and I'm hoping it could be something that would be fun to watch. We'll see. I think the jury is out. It's called The Ghost is a Lie. And this is a film by Skeleton Key Films that, let me just read the IMDb description here. It sounds like something that could work. Hoping to cash in on the final stages of the found footage phenomenon, a shady LA producer hires a small crew of cult icon, has-been, and never-were filmmakers to whip up a supernatural first-person perspective ghost story on a pitifully low budget. Along with a handful of amateur actors, the group heads into the woods and sets about rigging up scares and planning the story with varying degrees of enthusiasm. After filming the first gag, the actors return to base camp to find the crew has been brutally murdered. Most of the crew, anyway. Now the actors are lost far from home and being hunted, stalked by a vicious killer with an eye for cinema. It sounds like it's getting a little meta as far as
it's meta footage.
It's an actual found footage film that these people are making that turns into a found footage film, and there's something about that makes me want to see it, and I don't know if it's going to be any good or not. I think I saw that the budget on this film, speaking of whipping up a supernatural first-person perspective ghost story on a pitifully low budget, I think I saw somewhere that the budget on this film was like $10,000. So, I mean, talk about a bunch of friends going out into the woods just making something for cheap.
Oh, I love it. This is one. You showed me the trailer this last week, and this is one I'm actually. I'll probably catch this at some point. Just out of curiosity, because there's some pretty good gags in the trailer. It looks like an interesting one. So
it looks like it should be fun. I don't know if it has any release dates yet. Nothing that I could find. Right now it just says 2014. So it's a vague sometime this year sort of release.
Excellent. I'll bet it'll be a direct to digital. Don't you think?
I bet it will be.
Yeah.
I bet it will be.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap up our found footage series with another found footage film, but only if you're looking at footage as a measurement.
Oh.
It's called The Final Member, and it's a documentary, and I can't find anywhere to indicate that it's actually not true. I'm going to go ahead and read this as you did. I think it's most important here to read the description. I have to share this. 30 miles from the Arctic Circle, in the northern Icelandic town of Húsavík, stands the Icelandic Phallological Museum, the world's only penis museum. Over 40 years, the founder and curator has collected every specimen from every mammal except for one elusive penis. I couldn't make it.
That's a great tagline right there. One elusive penis.
One elusive penis needed to complete his collection, the human specimen. The film follows the curator's incredible, sublimely comic, often shocking quest to complete his eccentric collection, and the two intrepid men who have raised their hands to be the first human donor. And let's add, after watching this trailer, particularly one guy wants to be the first human donor before he's dead.
Yeah, right. It's shocking. And he is very gung-ho because he's an American and he wants an American penis to be the first one in there. And he's got stars and stripes tattooed on it.
Yeah, he has tattooed his penis with the stars and stripes. This is a man who is proud to stand at full attention, shall we say.
Oh, my goodness.
Yeah, this looks like an absolutely hysterical documentary, and I think we owe it to our species to see what people have done to themselves.
Yes, absolutely.
Down there. What a great find. Well done. Documentary, comedy, drama. Excellent.
And I think it's actually opening this weekend in limited release.
Fancy that.
I wonder if the director got final cut.
Oh,
it's so bad. That's just so bad.
That's good. No, that's really, that was meant to be. Andy, I think we should go troll hunting.
Nå skal vi da opp til en gård her oppe, hvor det har vært noe på lokalnyhetene om hendelser.
Folk vil jo alltid prøve å finne naturlige forklaringer på sånne ting.
You know, it's a funny thing about Norwegian. I think, first of all, that you chose this film mostly so that you could just have a full interview, a full conversation with me butchering another culture's language.
I did it just for that reason.
Every name, it's just absolutely... And you listen to this film, and it's hard to watch for me because I get so lost in the language. It doesn't sound like anything else, this Norwegian. It doesn't. It's not even an accent. It's just like, here are some syllables, and they just say it like with a standard, like kind of a Midwestern accent. It's just they just say it. It's not like Swedish. You know what I mean? It's like Swedish. You can tell. Norwegian is, or you know what I'm saying.
And what I love about it is, like, when you see it written, like when you're looking at the credits, how they combine words together just to make, as opposed to keeping, like, I'm trying to think, like, sound designer, two separate words, kind of like we would do it. They just squish it all together. And I don't know if sound designer is really a good example because I don't know how it is written in Norwegian, but they squish them together. So you get these words that are like 20 characters long. Right. Just like, it looks like I just don't even know where to begin with that word.
Totally. Yes. This is, so you picked this movie. I had never seen it.
Yeah.
And talk about why you picked this movie for this series.
Yeah, this is a movie that I saw a few years ago. One of my friends had recommended it, and I had never heard of this before. But he had recommended some found footage films to watch, and I thought this one looked interesting. I loved the idea of just looking at the poster. It piqued my curiosity. Even though the poster, much like Quarantine, gives quite a bit away as far as you get the Jeep on the icy road with the giant troll kind of like walking.
So frustrating.
Yeah, it's like, oh, there it is, right there. But even with that, I don't know, it piqued my curiosity, and it, more than some other found footage films, I do like that sort of genre, kind of the creature feature, the monster genre, kind of like that was one of the reasons that Cloverfield was such an enjoyable film. And I went into this kind of going, okay, I'll give it a chance. It looks pretty interesting. I don't know what to expect out of Norway as far as found footage creature feature, but I'll give it a try. And I had so much fun watching this. I loved the conceit of these college kids just trying to do almost like kind of a class documentary project about a bear poacher. And then as they follow this guy, they find out, no, he's not actually a bear poacher. This guy is actually a troll hunter, and he works for the government. And it's like this program the government has. And I just love that whole idea of the way they present that in the story. And then I really loved the trolls, too. Like, once you start seeing the trolls, not that they're like scary, horrifying horror movie trolls, but the fact that they are trolls in the like the fairy tale sense of what you would see in Scandinavian folklore. And they look kind of like those silly trolls, the ones that have the great big noses and kind of the funny faces and everything. But I loved that they took that type of troll and they used them as real, and they made them actually fairly scary. I mean, it's not a horror movie, but there are some tense scenes with these trolls, and I really enjoyed just the whole fantasy element of this story, and I really had a lot of fun watching it. I really enjoyed the way that they used the found footage in this, and I think it really worked as a found footage film, and I think it worked as kind of a fantastical fairy tale creature feature.
It's funny. I enjoyed it too. There's a great editorial line. Morten Stahl Nielsen, who's a critic for Verdensgang, wrote this, loosely translated by Norwegian's a little rough, that Trollhunter is better than we feared, weaker than we could have imagined. Now, I think that's probably fairly true. This is a film for me that I love the conceit, and I love some of the things they did with the, with the college students. And you and I were both there. I mean, we were in college with the, college equipment, running around shooting things, shooting sports or shooting news, whatever we were doing. Like, we were these kids. And so I had kind of an affinity for the group of kids, and so that was fun. I love that they just sort of stumbled on it. I love that they they name drop Michael Moore. Right? Would Michael Moore have stopped on the first try? I mean, there's some good little lines there. These kind of documentary and pop culture riff that I really liked. I think they set it up well in that light because what we found is that if you can buy into the conceit early, then you generally can have a pretty good time with these films. And I think they did a pretty good job with the conceit, and you could tell they were novice news people, and I think they played that role well. I love that they switched camera people halfway through the film, or in the third act, right? They had there was a bit of a thing, which was actually a pretty tense moment for me. And this is one of the things I thought was particularly interesting, in spite of the fact that they quarantined the poster and sort of gave away the big bad at the end. So that you already knew what the creatures looked like. You already had an idea of the sort of setup of the, as you say, of the fairy tale part of it. There were still some really intense moments in it. Yeah. I expected to laugh my way through this film, and I did not. I enjoyed myself.
And when you say laugh, you mean laugh in mock.
Yeah. I definitely expected to mock, but particularly toward the second when they hit the cave. And started going into the infrared. I thought there were some particularly intense sequences that were pretty darn good. However, I would say that the film was carried by Hans the Troll Hunter.
Oh yeah,
who is apparently a Norwegian comedian. Though there was nothing terribly funny about him in this film.
Not really, but other than the fact that he is a comedian and he's playing this role, so I don't know. But yeah, it's not really a funny film.
Yeah, no, it's not. It's not really funny. Although I expected it to be. There were some sequences where they pull out some of the equipment, and they pull out the giant syringe that I thought was really great.
Or where he walks out in the giant suit of armor because he has to go, actually draw blood from this troll to try to figure out what it's sick with.
Right, 25-foot troll who then picks him up and tries to chew on him, but can't get through the armor, so throws him back down. I mean, that was a particularly humorous bit, especially because he lived and everything ended up fine. I thought that worked pretty well.
I think you're right though in what you say, and that review I think is, I think it's fair to say that better than we feared, weaker than we could hope. It's not. I don't know. Weaker than we could hope is completely hitting it on the mark, but it's a very fun film to watch. I don't think it's a very deep film. I don't think there's really a whole lot that you're going to be getting out of it, other than just maybe an enjoyable time, and then you can kind of put it to the side and move on. But but it is better than you would have expected a film like this to be, and I think that's what made it stand out for me, is just the idea that wow, this is an actual a serious story about these funny drawings of trolls that I've seen all my life, of these Norwegian types of trolls with the big noses and the hairy bodies, and they chew on rocks and they turn to stone when they get hit by sunlight. Just like all of that kind of folklore of trolls. I like how they treated it real, and I thought that element in this film makes it a film that works for me.
Yes. I think there is I wanted to talk a little bit about religion. Yeah. In the film. They make it a thing. If you're a Christian, you're going to be eaten.
Yeah, they can smell Christians' blood. If you're an atheist, they can't smell your blood, so you're more likely to be able to sneak around them without getting caught. But if you're Christian, then your blood is something they can smell, and they'll track you down and chew you up.
Now, there are two things about that. The first one is the troll lore. Now, I know you are a longtime student of troll lore.
That's what I majored in.
Right. You got a BS degree in troll lore.
Absolutely.
Do you know if that's a thing? If it is a thing. Trolls can smell out Christians.
Actually, in the fairy tale Soria Moria Castle,
here's where you do it. This is where you're going to drop it.
It's one of the actual tales where you have a story about trolls and how they can smell a Christian man's blood.
There you go. All right.
So, yes. So it is something that is oft repeated in troll tales.
Okay. All right. Trolls are particularly notoriously bad in Scandinavian kind of folklore, and that's one of the things that I feel like I'm a little bit disconnected when I watch this film. I feel a little bit like I've used this word a lot recently, like an interloper on this kind of cultural identity. Like I'm just not close enough to it to really get it. But I like the way they address it in this film. Like they address it, very sort of candidly. And I think Hans is, he just has this sort of checklist where he says, are you Christian? Do you believe in God? No? Okay, you're okay. Now go cover yourself in poop, and then we're gonna go. We're going to go look for trolls. But I think that's an interesting... I did kind of get hit with that a little bit sideways, that there is this... there is a quite literal interpretation of the fact that religion is dangerous in this film, right? And for a found footage film where you've removed the veil of of story, essentially, right? I mean, you're breaking that fourth wall, essentially, even though you're in the story. But that's one of the things. It feels so much more like real life. One of the tropes of found footage, that sort of gestalt of religious fear is I found fascinating.
especially fear of religion as opposed to fear of not being religious.
Right.
Because that's another trope that you can have in films is, fear of, falling out of faith or not being faithful enough, and that can be a whole different sort of element in particularly like horror movies, when it's something like The Exorcist or something, when you really need to have that faith in order to survive. This is a really interesting twist on that, and I joke I really don't know much about trolls. I majored in Wikipedia troll lore. It's really where I get my degree. Yeah, other than that, I've only ever seen pictures, and I know like the basics, Billy Goat's gruff and things like that. But and so I
don't remember the religious undertones of Billy Goat's gruff.
I don't think there was anything there. But I mean, I'm just saying, that's just kind of a basic troll story, and I kind of knew those sorts of stories. I don't think I knew anything about the religious stories of trolls going into this. But that's again something that I really enjoyed, and I don't think it took me out of it, or it made me feel like I was at a loss or anything. I felt like I was in a place where I'm with people who, just much like Apollo 13 as an example, where I'm with people who know what they're talking about. I'm going to trust that things that they say are logical within the context of their world and what they need and how they're explaining it to someone else. And because of that, I'm going to go along with them. And when they tell me that stuff about a Christian man's blood, I'm going to buy into it. And it's just, it is what it is. And that's the context of, how it's going to be in this story. Now, as far as I don't know a whole lot about Norway and the whole idea of religion in Norway, and if the trolls were used as something, kind of a fairy tale with religion to kind of, it's kind of an odd one because it's kind of scaring you out of religion, if anything.
Well, and it's ostracizing too, right? Because at this point here, we've set up a premise where not only will you be sniffed out if you are religious, but if you're with someone who's religious, then you're in danger as well. So now we are separating those of religion right. and putting them someplace else. And there is this great sequence where you see everybody stop as the new camera woman shows up, who is a Muslim, and nobody knows what to do.
Right.
There is that beat where they're sitting there thinking, honest to God, I don't know what's going to happen. I don't know if trolls can smell Muslims.
Yeah, there's a great moment from Hans where he's thinking about that, and he's just like, I don't know.
I found that fascinating. So I think it's interesting. It's not... There is this wonder, and we may have talked about this in another sort of discussion of kind of cultural representation of religion. There's a great there was a great Gallup poll done, a study over 2006 2011 that is discusses religiosity by country or atheism by country. And Norway is 65% atheist. So more than the majority is atheist, but you sort of get that feeling that they were poking a little bit, or more than a little bit, especially the initial round of when they're talking about are you religious? No, I mean I sang in the church choir, but only because my mom told me to.
Right.
So they shared some laughs over that, and I thought that was an interesting kind of statement to make in a film like this. I don't want to belabor the point too much, but I think it's telling.
Yeah, and it's interesting because is Kalle the cameraman, is he not admitting to being religious because he really is genuinely afraid of being eaten by a troll? Probably not, because at this point when they're talking about whether they're Christian or not with Hans, they haven't seen any trolls and they think Hans is just a little loopy. It's probably because he's embarrassed in a crowd of atheists to actually admit that he's Christian.
Right.
So there is kind of that ostracizing sense that I don't want to not be a part of this because I'm a Christian.
Right. And I think they make a big enough point in these across these like three sequences in the film that they keep coming back to it. That I think it becomes a part of the narrative.
Yeah.
So, the other piece is politics. How this film addresses the nature of the cover-up.
Yeah, and that's something I think is pretty interesting in the context of this film is governments and their cover-ups, and who is it who's deciding what they're going to do for the better of the people, so to speak.
Right.
And it's like, I mean, that's the whole premise of this film is Hans works for the government in this troll agency. I can't remember the name of the specific agency that he works for.
Yeah, it's only in
I don't
know how to translate it.
Somewhere in my notes here. What was it called? The Troll Security Service, the TSS. He works for TSS, and the only reason he agrees to be a part of this kind of documentary these kids are doing is because he's fed up with his job. And I found that so interesting and telling that people get put into jobs like this where they just do what the government tells them to do, quote unquote, for the good of the people, because we can't have the trolls stomping around and scaring people. We can't let people know that these trolls are real, et cetera, et cetera. And you hear those sorts of things. You see them in other movies where it's a premise of hiding things from people and whatnot. But in this one, I really liked the fact that this is a guy who's just kind of a grunt. He does this for the government. He doesn't get anything out of it. He can't talk to people about it. He can't share his experiences. He can't, there's at no point in his life will he be able to really kind of come clean. And, it reminds me of my grandfather-in-law who worked for the military and was he was a submarine captain. And later in his life, he ended up being involved in Area 51. And to his deathbed, he was so in line with the government that he would never talk about any of his experiences. And he went, to his grave with those secrets. And I find it interesting that governments can make people that way. People become so in line with the kind of the rhetoric that the government is spouting that they just kind of go along preaching it. And I really like that this man is somebody who, because of some of these horrible things that the government has actually had him do, he's actually now kind of turned the other way and finds this as an opportunity to finally come clean and share these experiences.
Well, yeah, and what I love so much about his portrayal there is that he comes at it from a place of just visceral exhaustion, right?
Yeah.
And not exhaustion from the work. You can tell he's an older man. He's been doing this all his life, but it's exhaustion from the politics. And when he comes to it. And accepts the fact that these kids aren't going anywhere. He says, well, you know what? Maybe if you can get this on TV, something will start to change. And it comes at an interesting time. I mean, you said something I think that is it's an important way to frame this. Who makes the decisions for the good of the people? Who has the right to make the decisions for the good of the people? And just today, did you see this, the Princeton study that came out and redefined the kind of government that America has?
No, I didn't.
So it's a significant study. You can download the PDF from Princeton, and they essentially studied 1,800 policy initiatives between 1981 and 2002, and determined that the United States is not a democracy anymore. That over the last many years we've been trending toward and arrived at becoming an oligarchy, where decisions are made by those connected, wealthy, and in power. On behalf of, no longer on behalf of the populace, right? There is now a disconnect between that and the politics. And I think that, I haven't read the whole thing. I did start reading it today. I read about, 20 pages of it today, and it started making me think about this movie, because here you have this small group of people making this decision for the populace, rather than figuring out a way to live publicly and openly about these giant secrets of nature, right, that are living in the woods. They have set up an entire shadow department that is designed to hide and contain this thing that is of nature. I mean, it is a natural phenomena. These inhabitants, and so they are making these decisions without the consent of the populace, and I think that's another interesting take on it, especially because back to the sort of religiosity of it. I mean, you get this whole pagan kind of secular, non-secular vibe, right? These creatures being of nature, they are representative of all that is natural, the mountains and the woods, and they are how old did they say they could be? 1,000 years old?
Yeah, right.
And or more. They are as old as the land itself, and yet they are something to be hidden and feared. And I find that an interesting touch.
And it's, speaking to that, the government is perfectly fine having these poachers these Polish poachers go out and basically hunt bears and
right.
use these bears essentially as sacrifices to cover up the trails of and the destruction that these trolls cause.
Well, which is wonderful because they set up the premise early that says not everybody can get a bear hunted. Bears are not that's something that's prestige hunt. Not everybody gets to go hunt bear, and yet the government is just hunting bears willy-nilly to hide from the trolls or just sacrifice for the trolls. I'm sorry I interrupted you.
No, but that's exactly it. It's just it's complete nonsense. And it's just like the government saying, "Oh, there are no bears. What are you talking about? No such thing as bears." And then trying to have somebody go and actually hunt all the bears. I mean, it's like they're creating this fake system where there aren't enough bears because they're having to hunt the bears so that they can do all of this. I mean, right. it's nonsense. And like you said, the trolls, I mean, sure, they walk around, they're not quite as maybe, natural in the woods. They don't seem as like just a creature of the forest coming out and feeding on fish in a stream or something like that. I mean, these are big bumbling humanoid creatures that obviously cause quite a lot of problems. But still, like you said, they are natural creatures, and who is it to any of us to basically decide that no one should know about them?
Yeah, that's really it. And so I think this movie does an interesting job of allowing us to examine how we address our biggest secrets, and how we handle the things that we might naturally feel we have to hide.
Yeah,
I thought that was interesting.
I actually thought it was one of the most interesting points of the film that it was bringing up. And I also love the whole idea that they go to the power plant to figure out where the lines are down. And they learn that, a lot of these power lines that are up in the mountains are actually not telephone lines, power lines, but are actually fences to keep these trolls at bay and to keep them confined to certain areas. And I love that the government employee who works at this power plant, it's like he's never really put any thought into where is the logic as far as why are these power lines just in a big circle? What is the point of that?
Well, they connect at the other end.
Yeah, and these kids are asking him that, and it's like nobody's ever asked him that before. But it's also like it's not a surprise for him because it's like, well, it is the government.
Right.
It's almost like that's how governments work. I guess I just never questioned it because the government isn't necessarily always doing the most efficient things. And again, that just speaks to the whole thing of the inefficiencies that come from trying to create these cover-ups that nobody questions because it's the government and they're quote unquote doing what's good for the people.
Totally agree.
This is quite a political film.
I know. How did that happen? I did not see this coming.
Oh, it's interesting. Very interesting.
Well, I think it's worth seeing, and I think it's worth seeing from this international perspective. I find that significant. Go ahead.
I was
going to change direction. So
I was just going to say that was another reason that I wanted to put it on the list of our found footage films. I know we didn't do Wreck and we did Quarantine instead, but I did want to try getting one foreign film onto this list. And we also we did manage to really confine them to fairly recent films. So at least it was nice to get one that was international, as opposed to reaching all the way back to Punishment Park back in 1971 or something.
Right.
Which I did start watching finally, but I haven't finished.
It's hard to watch in one setting.
It's interesting. I find it very interesting, but I haven't quite gotten into it.
I think speaking of Wreck and the remake, we should say it sounds like Neil Marshall is set to direct, if they haven't already started shooting, the remake of Trollhunter. Neil Marshall from my favorite Game of Thrones.
And from Descent, which we've
and from The Descent, right, which we love. So
yes,
looks
I like how it points out in the little story that I read how they're remaking it and they have retitled it Trollhunter with a S.
I think it's the Trollhunter even. Like it's they're very serious about this. There is only one Trollhunter.
There's not just a Trollhunter.
No. Let's talk a little bit about some of the people, and I guess we should talk about Halvard Breen cinematography.
Okay. Yes.
We've already talked a little bit about the about how they handle the camera. I think one of the things to highlight in this film is, like Quarantine, they are using high quality equipment, right? They're using HD cameras, and that makes, for me, the shaky cam experience less jarring. And this was a film that I think would really lend itself to incredibly jarring jiggly monkey shaky cam.
Yeah. And one of the nice things about this one is because it's in Norway and you've got all the great fjords and they're driving through all the countryside, I mean, there is just some truly gorgeous footage of the landscapes that these students are driving through as they go on this journey with the Trollhunter. And that's something that I really appreciate about this film, because it's not a country I see in film too often. And so just getting a chance to kind of, do my little tourism trip while watching the movie, I quite enjoyed.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought the trick with handing off the camera, they did a lot of I don't know, probably an 8-minute sequence with the camera actually broken. Maybe it wasn't that long. It sure felt long.
It wasn't that long, but it did lead up to the new camera person coming in with a brand new camera.
I thought that was a nice touch. I mean, I felt like that was cool. Since we, losing the original cameraman, that was tough.
It was really sad, but I guess it was an interesting thing to do, and I would say unexpected, because the camera is the thing that really has to be living through the end of the film in a found footage film. You kind of expect the cameraman to be somebody who's going to make it through the end of the film. I mean, Quarantine, he made it pretty far.
Yeah, but he was not the last man standing, and nor was it in Cloverfield. Right? I mean,
that is true. But it's right up toward the end.
Right, and you should say, in this case, he dies and is replaced. Like that I think is what stands out. There is a long section of film after his death with a new cameraman.
Yeah.
So that's
it reminded me of another found footage film. It wasn't really found footage. It was more of what was it called? A mockumentary, documentary. What was it called? Man Bites Dog. Did you ever see that one?
Oh, yeah, I did.
Yeah, it was a French comedy crime drama where it's a film crew and they're following a killer, basically, as he kind of goes around killing people and everything. And
I can't help but laugh at that.
I know, it's really kind of whacked out. And they lose track of what's important, and they start helping him in his killings and things like that. But as I recall, in that film, they keep losing sound guys. Like, their sound guys keep getting knocked off, and they keep having to get new sound guys to come in and fill in for the one who is just killed. And so that was I don't know, when the cameraman died, that's what it made me think of that from Trollhunter.
Yeah, it's that was a good bit.
Mm-hmm.
We should talk about the director, André Øvredal.
Yes, or something like that.
It's like when they have the O with the line through it. I don't obviously don't know how to pronounce it, but it almost makes me think clearly it doesn't count. You know, like the O is just like, yeah, you should just cross out letters you don't really care for.
I'm done with that O. I don't need that. Yeah, he's done, it looks like Trollhunter was his second film as a director, and he's got 2 more in the works in pre-production, one of which, The Autopsy of Jane Doe, it looks like Martin Sheen is set to star. So it looks like he's, trying to step up and branch out internationally. So, I'm curious to see how he does with that. I think this is not a Blair Witch style film where it's ultra low budget. I mean, I think he had a little more money. They had some special effects. They did a pretty ambitious film for this film, and so I'm curious to see where he goes next.
Well, I want to talk about the special effects, and obviously they had a little bit more money than Blair Witch. Some of the effects. Well, tell me what you think of the effects. To me, there was a fairly broad spectrum of believability, quality. What are you going to say?
Yeah, I think it's trolls, and they're very this kind of old school folkloric sort of type of trolls. I guess I didn't have a huge problem with how they looked, but because of the way that they look. They have such a kind of a silly look to begin with. But I mean, there are definitely times when the effects work better than others. I think the one that stands out to me as the worst example is the first troll that they have to take down, the Tosser Lad, the 3-headed troll. When it gets shot by the sun gun, and turns to stone, that whole thing looks very, very CG, and it's pretty clear that the giant stone troll is never actually really there. But
I think they bought themselves some credit on the bridge. With the troll living under the bridge, which I thought was
Wrinklefinch.
Yes, the Wrinklefinch.
I love these names.
Not the Tosser Lad, but the Wrinklefinch.
That's right. Yeah, the Wrinklefinch, who's under the bridge and eating the goats, and makes an appearance up on top.
Right. He does this thing on top, and his arm comes up, and he's like searching around for whatever's on top of the bridge. And I thought that was a great sequence, and I felt like that. To me, that looked just vastly more believable than the Tosser Lad. And I think it set the tone for the final sequence. There was some, when you see the trolls in the distance, like walking across the mountains, that wasn't terribly believable. But the final troll, I thought, was quite good.
Yeah, I really liked him, and I liked the infrared trolls. I thought they actually looked pretty good in infrared. The Mountain Kings.
Yeah, I think that's true.
The Mountain Kings and the Jotnar at the end.
They did a good job of recasting the landscape of Norway, kind of the mountains of Norway, as like battlefields of the the woodland trolls against the mountain trolls, and they start to ascribe natural phenomena in the context of this battle, and you really can see it. I think they did a good job of setting up the kind of narrative, the visual narrative of the film, so that we, the audience, kind of can adjust our own perspective very well. It was easy for me to look at those rocks and see, wow, I can totally see where a troll would have had his way on that mountain.
Yeah. And I like how he pulls out. It's just like the things that they come up with that a troll hunter would use as tools. How he's got his piece of like clear that gel that he's marked on, and he's drawn out where the rocks are so that he can go back there at a later date and hold it up and go, oh nope, they're all still in the same place. There hasn't been any fighting here.
Yeah,
it's just like great little things like that. I love all those little details that they throw in.
Totally agree. What else is on your list as we get close to the end here?
I think that's about it, but I did find it interesting that the bit at the end when they have the press conference with the Norwegian Prime Minister, Jens Stoltenberg, how he was doing his this is an actual press conference, and he's talking about this, I can't remember specifically, but he actually says, and we have trolls. And then he just kind of keeps going, and nobody made anything of it. It was just something that he kind of said in this real press conference. Now, apparently, he's actually speaking about an oil field that is called Troll Field. But it is funny in the context of the film where he kind of throws that out and nobody makes a big deal, almost just kind of like dismissing that he was saying anything serious. And it's just one of those funny little things. And that moment is one of those things that you see, and it's just like, okay, I can see the filmmaker André catching that on the news and going, oh, that would be an interesting thing to make a film about. Like, that's the thing. I can see that being the germ of an idea for writing a script,
Totally can. I think that slipped by me at first because I don't tend to follow Norwegian politics. I did not know on the first time I sat down to watch this that Jens Stoltenberg that was really him, and that was an edited cut of a real press conference. And let me just say, for the record, the Norwegian people have just an awesome general taste in locale for their press conferences. I mean,
yes,
really? I mean, in that sort of like on that stage right over the lake in the mountains. You should go there.
Like the whole country is like on mountains and hills and lakes and everything.
So anyhow, yes, I thought that was a really nice way to end it. And of course, the title card comes up at the end, and we have the students were never heard from again.
Right, exactly. That was the only other thing that it's a minor problem. I do like how at the beginning it's like, on October 13th, 2008, Film Kamerat AS received an anonymous package with 2 hard disks containing 283 minutes of filmed material. This film is a rough cut version of that material. Everything is shown in chronological order and no images have been manipulated. And it kind of goes on from there. But it did make me wonder. It's like, okay, so you took 283 minutes of filmed material and you condensed it to this hour-and-a-half movie that we're watching here. But you're keeping in moments like at the very beginning of the film where it's like, oh, I've got to kind of clean my lens. And, there are some moments where I'm like, okay, I don't quite buy that it's a rough cut. You're just telling us the story of these trolls because we're seeing these college kids as they clean the lenses and they get on the train, and there's some stuff in there that I was like, I don't think they would have kept that in if they were, doing this rough cut version to tell the story. But it's a minor quibble. It still is a fun film.
It is a fun film, and obviously I think there's more to it if you dig a little bit deeper and look at it at sort of what is the mirror that they're holding up to us to look at the filmmakers, and I think it ends up being an interesting sort of dialogue.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. Where do you want to go from here? You want to rate it? Rank it?
Well, let me tell you how it did financially.
Oh, yeah, we got to talk numbers.
First.
Yeah. You'd think I'd never done this show before.
Yeah, who are you again? It did okay. It did okay financially. It's not the highest ranking film, but it's a Norwegian film coming, trying to make some money in the world. It looks like it cost about $3.5 million US when you convert it from the Norwegian currency, and the budget, the domestic gross on this thing here in the U.S. was about $250,000, so it didn't sell a lot of tickets here. But internationally, it made almost $4 million. So all told, it did make its money back. It made about $7,500 per finished minute. So it's on the lower end of our earners, but it didn't lose money.
Well, that's something.
Yes,
and now it's going to go through the roof. That's all I'm saying.
And now, that's right. Well, throw Neil Marshall on there, and
now it'll go
a whole new Troll Hunter.
It's a regular dragon tattoo again. All right, let's head over to our favorite.
Let's do it.
Can we do that?
I'm ready.
You head over to flickchart.com/thenextreel. That's where you can find our stack ranking of all of our favorite films that we have done on this show, and some of them that are not our favorites. And so you should head there. You should go over there right now. You should become friends with us, and and then we can compare movies. Maybe we could get coffee.
Absolutely.
and compare movies. Let's do it.
Trollhunter or The Bourne Ultimatum?
Well, probably Bourne Ultimatum.
Yeah, I would too. Trollhunter or Compulsion? I would do Trollhunter. I mean, I really liked Compulsion, but again, I think the fantasy element of Trollhunter is something that I would return to more frequently.
Yeah, okay. I'm easy.
All right. Trollhunter or Panic Room?
Panic Room.
Lesser David Fincher fare, but very enjoyable.
Yeah.
I think I would do Panic Room as well. I'm a little torn on that one though, but I'll go just for the Fincherness of it.
The Fincherness of it.
That's right. Here we go. Trollhunter or Cloverfield?
Oh. Wow. Well,
I might do Trollhunter.
I think I would do Trollhunter.
Yeah, I those kids don't annoy me as much.
Exactly. That's exactly. I may not understand what they're saying, but I like the way they're saying it.
And I really do enjoy Hans the Trollhunter.
Yes.
He's a great character.
Yeah.
All right, Trollhunter or A League of Their Own?
Oh. I'm going to say Trollhunter.
That's a tricky one. I may right now. I may regret it, but I'm going to say Trollhunter right now. Oh, and man, I was getting some good pairings here. Trollhunter or Quarantine?
Quarantine for me.
Yeah, I think I would do Quarantine as well. And Trollhunter or Driving Miss Daisy?
Wow. I'm going to say Driving Miss Daisy because of Morgan Freeman.
Oh, that you enjoyed my little Morgan Freeman video I sent you.
Yeah, that was pretty good.
Oh, yes, that's good. I'll do it for that as well. I was going to say Trollhunter, but I'll give you Driving Miss Daisy. All right, there you go. 84 out of 128.
Wow.
Yeah, it's right between Quarantine and Cloverfield. So I think of all of them, we still have Chronicle up higher, and then Quarantine, Trollhunter, and Cloverfield.
Chronicle much higher.
Yes, much higher.
Excellent. Hey, this was fun. Did you learn anything new about found footage that you felt that you learned about your appreciation of the meme of the genre?
Well, yeah. I definitely still enjoy them. It is interesting going back and looking at them much more critically and really thinking about, okay, why would this person be filming here? Is there a logical reason that still works in the context of the film as to why they're doing it? And I think that's always the most challenging aspect of these found footage films. That being said, I still really enjoy the style of film, and I enjoy that it's something that you can move into different genres, whether it's a horror or a creature feature or a fantasy. I think it's a lot, or superhero. We did a few nice genres, and I think it was a lot of fun to watch it working in these different genres and seeing how well they did.
I think it's interesting on that point. I think that filmmakers are setting themselves up for non-trivial challenges by choosing to go down the road of found footage, and I don't think I gave those challenges enough cred when I normally just sort of talk about found footage until I start, until we watch them back to back like this. I have a better understanding of those. I think of those challenges, and I also find myself sort of exhausted. I think it's more work to watch these found footage films, particularly en masse like this. And I'm certainly ready for a break. But I deeply enjoyed the experience. I'm glad we did the series, and I think there are. Just judging by your trailers alone, there may be some films coming down the path that we might need to add to this collection.
That's something that I would say, looking at trailers for upcoming ones. I mean, I think there are definitely some that look exciting to talk about, but like the horror genre, this is becoming fast and I don't even know if it's fair to call found footage a genre, but it certainly is a style of telling a story.
Right.
It's becoming very popular for filmmakers who don't have a big budget to tell a story, because it instantly puts you into a framing device that that allows kind of the behind the scenes filmmaking techniques to leak into the story, so you don't have to worry about it quite as much. And I will say that I appreciate the ones that are done well that much more, because there are so many out there that aren't.
Yes. Andy.
So, yes, that's all. That was it.
That was big. You made your point, and you disappeared, and I thought, wow, that was you. Did you just drop the mic and walk away?
It was a PowerPoint. I made my point, and I took my beat.
Okay. Well, hey, this was fun, and now we are taking a break. We're going to move into. We've already talked a little bit about this, I think, last week. We're taking a little bit of a break and doing a listener's choice film next week.
Very excited.
We're doing The Matrix.
Yeah, and I am curious to revisit The Matrix, and it does open the possibility of maybe sometime in 2015, if we think it's worth exploring, finishing out the series, because The Matrix is so good. The other ones are ambitious, and it would be interesting to kind of look at the trilogy again. I haven't seen it as a trilogy in quite a while, but I am definitely excited to watch The Matrix, though.
Yeah, I personally, and I'm just going to put it out there, I don't think you can talk about The Matrix and not talk about the universe that the Wachowskis created. I don't, whatever you feel about the other two films as isolated cinema events, I think you have to do credit to the entire universe that they created, because it's not just the films, it's the game, it's the Animatrix, it's the comics. I mean, it's just it's the universe, and I think you have to acknowledge what the role that the other two films play. So that's my take. I would love to add those to it. I think there are some things that are actually not reprehensible in those films, and so I look forward to kicking off. This was our listener's choice pick with Alex Curran. And we have a little conversation with Alex where he tells us a little bit about why he decided to pick this for us, and I like it. I think he's got a great reason.
I'm absolutely looking forward to it.
Yes, so that's next week, The Matrix, and also this weekend. Are we gonna say it?
Let's do it.
It's been picked, right? It's done. Okay.
I think it's officially picked, yes.
All right. We are we're going to go back in time a little bit and pretend that Captain America the Winter Soldier has just been released. And we're gathering the thugs of the film board, and we're going to talk a little bit of Cap this weekend.
Absolutely, yeah.
In our very special episode.
Get our Marvel on.
We're going to get our Marvel. Grim. Excellent. Looking forward to it. Andy? Awesome, as usual. Good talking to you, man.
I'm gonna go hunt some more trolls.
I'm gonna go to bed.
I'm not talking.
Stop talking.
I'm not talking. I'm not. Why would I talk?
Stop talking, Andy. Stop talking.
It is hard to believe that we have been having in-depth weekly conversations about movies since 2011.
So many great conversations over the years about so many great movies.
And some stinkers.
Well, true. But producing this show week after week requires a ton of work behind the scenes. If you'd like to help support our efforts, one easy way is by using our Originals page when shopping for books and movies that we've covered.
Just visit thenextreel.com/originals. Your purchases made through our links give us a small commission at no extra cost to you and allow us to keep having these great discussions.
In Season 3, we covered even more great adaptations like The Night of the Hunter and It Happened One Night, both part of our Couples on the Run series.
We talked about No Country for Old Men. The Coen brothers so rarely adapt someone else's work.
We had some fun rom-com adaptations like About a Boy, based on the Nick Hornby novel, and Nick and Nora's Infinite Playlist, adapted from Rachel Cohn and David Levithan's book.
In our terribly and naively named foreign language series, we discussed The Brilliant City of God and The Diving Bell and the Butterfly, which I won't ever be able to watch again, ever.
But could you read the original memoir?
I don't know, maybe?
We had our Richard Dysart series with adaptations like The Day of the Locust and Being There.
Plus, we had that fantastic interview with the man himself.
The one where we had him sit on the floor.
Because this chair was so squeaky. Good times.
We did our first Tom Hanks series with Forrest Gump, adapted from Winston Groom's novel, plus Apollo 13, based on Lost Moon by Jim Lovell.
And we did another year series looking at films from 1981, including Das Boot, Gallipoli, and Thief, all based on books.
Listeners can dive deeper into all of these original stories and more at thenextreel.com/originals. Every book, play,
movie,
video game. You bet. We have talked about some video game adaptations as well. It doesn't matter the source, just follow the link. Every purchase supports the podcast.
Check out the full list at thenextreel.com/originals and get reading, watching, performing, or playing today.